Buddhist practice is about suffering and the liberation from suffering. And what I want to do today is take a look at our life, what our life is from a Buddhist perspective. I think we can compare our life with a train. It's like a train. And so we're born at some point, and then this train is being set on some track. And at first, though, there may be a really open field, and we don't know as an infant, there's so many possibilities, and we don't know yet really which direction is it going to go. And then things happen, and they start narrowing down that open field of possibilities that we have as an infant, and narrow it down more and more. And sometimes, of course, even things happen that will change the direction that it's been heading in. Sometimes just slightly, and sometimes a big change of direction. And so throughout our childhood, I would say, and youth and so forth, there's a lot of navigation, like who am I really, who do I want to be, and how do the circumstances of my life also interact and partly determine what shape my life takes. That's one aspect of the metaphor, this, the way navigation happens. The second is that, of course, throughout our life, we're also accumulating things and contacts, friendships, people, all kinds of just experiences as well. So we're accumulating things, and even if they don't entirely maybe change the entire direction of our life, they start being added to the train, like passengers maybe. And at some point, for most people, sooner or later, there will be a point when we feel pretty much, oh, my life is settled now. This is what it is. I've made the major decisions. I'm underway in a particular direction. And these are the relationships, be it to people or to things or property or whatever. These are the relationships that are part of my life. And that feeling settled can actually feel really good. It can be, can bring a kind of calmness and just satisfaction into groundedness into our lives. For a lot of people, when they come to Buddhist practice, when they come to a monastery or even, just to the Dharma Academy, to an online course, I usually hear some version of them recognizing, having some view of, well, this is what my life is, but there also being some wish for a change, for some kind of something needs to either go, or the direction isn't working anymore, or we're just questioning, is this really it? Or we want a whole other set of passengers in our train. Usually people come with a wish for transformation, be it because they want to get away from something that causes too much suffering, or they have some intimation that something else is possible. And so whatever the reason is for you personally, for most people who engage with practice, there is some seeking happening, some wish for transformation. And the entirety of what Buddhist practice is and provides I would call it provides really the infrastructure that will allow for you to understand what is needed to make the kind of shift that you're longing for, to engage and start entering the path of transformation that you're hoping for. So that's what Buddhism is. It provides that infrastructure. And how does it do that? And the metaphor I'm using is the very first thing it does is Buddhism builds train stations for you. That's what meditation is. It builds these stations. Meditation is like an inner station where the train of your life can kind of come to a halt. Ideally it does, and that's that whole thing with whether you can learn in meditation to stop the continuous running of the engines in the ever same direction, whether you can learn that skill, how to actually release the ongoing creation of continuity and really turn meditation into that inner station and inner stationality, where the train of your life, even for just like 20 minutes or so, just comes to a stop and you're staying. With such a train station, suddenly all kinds of things become possible. While the train is going, it's really difficult to really look at what's going on with the train. There may be all kinds of things that are wrong with the train, like fittingly, the etymology of the Buddhist word for suffering, dukkha, the etymology of it is just like it's when the axis of a wheel is not in the center of the wheel. That's dukkha, when it's off. The axis is off center. And you can imagine that that really makes for a bumpy ride. So dukkha, essentially just as a bodily concept, yeah, as that what it is that you're not in your center. You're not centered. You're not in your middle. So we can understand really all of the Buddhist path. There's going to be a few extra things, but the essence of it is how to turn the feeling of off-centeredness, how to return to center. It's that like all of Buddhism is really stuck in that little move from here, off-center, to here, center, sukha. Okay. So that's the first thing. You're going to want to take an inventory of what's really going on with your train. You want to get in touch, in real touch, sensorial, bodily touch with what your life really feels like. We so often look at our lives from the outside, and social media makes that worse. We kind of have that third person perspective on our lives. And from that perspective, there are so many things we can't see, just like some arbitrary person outside the train has no idea when they see the train passing. They're going to have very little information about what's really going on inside that train, with that train, why it ticks the way it ticks, what's important within it. And also if the engine, like what about the whole chemistry in there, the technology, does it need anything? So just like an outside person really is not a good judge for what's happening with and for us, we need to learn how to actually inhabit our lives. And again, the best way to really do that is you need your life to just stop for a moment. Ideally every day for about 20 minutes or a little more if you want. That's meditation. You stop your life, you enter it. You really start becoming profoundly intimate with that whole movement that I'm calling the train of our lives. So you're taking an inventory. First thing is you're checking on the wheels. That's what I suggest. Am I centered? What is the feeling of being centered? What's being centered with what? I mean, centering is a relational concept. There is no absolute center that you need to somehow turn to. That would be more maybe a theological idea where there is some kind of God and then your soul starts centering with God. That's also a metaphor. But in Buddhism, it's a lot more, all the parts are moving. Everything is moving. Your reference point from a Buddhist point of view is the aliveness of your feeling body. Very specifically, very sensorially, it's your feeling body that becomes your reference point. And quite literally, the center of your feeling body is going to be here. It's called the hara. It's that area below the navel. And that is anatomically the center. It is. So in the embodied practice of Buddhism, the first thing you want to check on is what happens when you start living, even just the idea? First, you just introduce the idea. What if you start living more from the center of your physical body and not so much from the center of your identity? Which the center of your identity, that can be some idea some other person has about what your life should be. It could be anything. It could be our culture's idea. And, those ideas, they can be profoundly deluded. They can be profoundly just wrong for us. So you want to first of all establish a reference point. And again, the most reliable reference point that's also going to bring a kind of natural confidence into your life is the center of your feeling body. So you start breathing into this area. You start bringing attention into this area. You start really cultivating and have some idea, even if it takes quite a while. You want to walk from here. You want to talk from here. You want to breathe into it, breathe out of it. It's just like a bodily image you're holding, but you start seeing how that may affect your inner life and possibly also your outer life. So let me summarize where we're at right now. You have, through meditation, you've started to build a train station, and that allows you to investigate. You are now checking specifically on the centering. That's the first thing. You want everything to be centered and in its appropriate place. That's the establishment of reference point and then bringing your attention there. And then the next thing is you are going to need something like a compass or a map. Like, where is that whole train once it starts going again? Because at some point the meditation bell will ring and your day will start. Then what? Like, how do you determine the direction for the day or even for the week or for the year or for your life? My teacher talks about not a GPS, but a DPS. You need a Dharma positioning system, a wisdom positioning system. And that is where the teachings are coming in. The way you accumulate a greater knowledge of the territory of existence, because that is what the landscape, just the land that this train is going to be functioning within, is nothing less than the territory of our existence. And we need to understand better what that is. How do we exist? What is existence? And that is what the wisdom teachings of Buddhism are all about. So you're bringing over time, one piece after the other, you're bringing in a feeling for, not just an understanding of, but also a feeling for the Dharma positioning system, the wisdom teachings, which are going to start giving you a clearer, ever more clear sense of the territory of our existence. Once you've set these things up, you've created a basic infrastructure that can start help us to transform the direction and the living of our life into one that's set on the tracks of wisdom and compassion. Thank you.